This chair is empty, but momentarily Josiah will be here and it will be filled because today is the first ever Butterfly Effect Wrestling. I have about 30 pages of notes. I'm going to run through them as fast as I can because it's time to rewrite history. Change one thing, change everything. Josiah, I wanted to change a few things.
What?
Primarily, primarily I wanted to get rid of the fruit roll-up strap that Mick Foley and Stephanie McMahon introduced in 2016.
And got booed out of the building immediately.
That is correct. That Finn Balor originally held, then he had to give up the next day.
Yeah.
And Triple H helped KO win it. So that title always to me felt like a joke. A less than. A copy that was messed up in the copier, if you will. Like that, it was just, visually was off. And another thing about that championship itself was Brock Lesnar had a 504-day title reign.
That sounds right.
And
Felt longer. Felt like triple that. But
so I looked up somebody trying to justify the title reign from Sportskeeda. I have 10 pages here of them justifying it. And the first one, or not first, but the last, the final, the 10th reason why it's A-okay that Brock Lesnar did what he did is because he had a longer, with less defenses reign in the UFC, according to this person. I'm like, I do not care.
also, and just to interject,
Yeah.
in UFC you do like max 3-4 fights a year.
Yes.
Like that's actually like everyone does that.
Yes.
That's normal. I mean, if you're on top of the card. Top of the card.
707 days is what they said. And they tried to justify, oh, well, he had less title defenses because he had 7 of the Universal title at 504, and he had less than 7 defenses in the 707-day title reign for the UFC. But the fact is, every one of these 10...
That's why UFC counts the title defenses and not the days.
Correct, yeah. But every one of the things that they said, oh, this and that, I was like, it all was for nothing.
Yep.
Because, oh, well, him and Goldberg had a title match at WrestleMania. Who cares? What was another one? Oh, it was the first time that Kane ever blah, blah, blah. I don't care. It was all pointless. It was stupid. The title looked dumb. Then the reign meant nothing. It's actually that...
Honestly, all the reigns meant nothing. If I'm being honest with you.
I think...
Up until, like, what, the end of the title's lineage?
That's what I was going to say. I think the end of its lineage is the only thing that made me hesitant to do this, but I felt like...
It could still happen even without...
Well, the thing that made it special, right?
Yeah.
That last reign, that being Roman Reigns, the thing that made that special was it was Roman. Never ending, top guy, easy peasy, things that made sense.
Amen.
And so my point is, if we so chose to keep that to be the case, his never-ending reign, he can easily do it with the thing that is changing the world, the change one thing, change everything here in this world. But before I reveal it, actually, you saw the thumbnail. You know what it looks like theoretically. But actually, just hold that real quick.
Gotcha.
Here's what it looks like.
In person.
Yes,
Live and in living color.
in actual practice. It's not just a concept that I designed, but it's actually something I funded and made real. And the reason I did this, hold that for a second, is twofold. One, I felt like the Universal title was
Ugly as hell.
ugly and pointless, but here's the other thing. Imagine, if you will... Oh, okay, before I talk about the Imagine, let's talk about all the people that were Intercontinental Champion and then went on to become top guys, or were top guys and then held the Intercontinental title. Stone Cold Steve Austin, The Rock, Macho Man Randy Savage, Bret Hart, Shawn Michaels, Chris Jericho, the list goes on. Like, literally, I've got a whole sheet of people that were both top guys and Intercontinental Champions. But this is probably the more important list of people, which is, this is actually, so it's twofold list. So we'll go back and forth between if my plan was to have been followed through with, and that being we elevate the Intercontinental Championship instead of introducing the unnecessary Universal title, but instead elevate the Intercontinental title to that level. Let's go over all the people that would retroactively be recognized as a top guy because this title is now a recognized top strap in the WWE. I want to start with a man named William Regal.
Wow, I've heard of that guy.
Like,
pretty good.
Isn't that a man who everybody has always said deserved the accolade of top guy? Come on now, that's a great shout.
Yeah, absolutely. So, William Regal, one of the, like, what's the word I'm looking for? Premier technicians of his time.
100%.
Like, some call him the Bryan Danielson of his time.
I think Bryan Danielson actually would attribute William Regal to his own personal success.
Absolutely. Who else we got, Alex?
So, Mr. Perfect, a man that many have said should be recognized as a top man, he would be when you change the perception of the Intercontinental title. Razor Ramon, the bad guy. Come on now. These are all
never
guys.
believe you never won a world title.
Yeah. So
ridiculous.
This is basically fixing problems that should have never been in the case. So tell me about the second man on your chart there, sir.
You mean my man Shelton Benjamin?
Shelton Benjamin, a man that we often talk about when it comes to
standard.
Alpha Entertainment Worldwide, a man who we both think woulda, coulda, shoulda been treated as a top guy. Well, if you change the perception of the Intercontinental Championship to be on the same level as the world title, look at that, we made it happen.
Man, tippy top
in
the industry.
I started with William Regal, but I'm going to move on to the British Bulldog. Because, again, this is another man who had the look. He had the power. He didn't really have the promo, but,
Hey.
2 out of 3 ain't bad, I think is what Meatloaf said. But who's the last man on your chart there?
That would be one Bad News Barrett.
Again, this is a man I think could have been a top guy in his day. I think a lot of the reason why it didn't happen is because of Big Match John.
Literally one match. One match derailed all of his future.
But my point just is, lots and lots of people could be retroactively appreciated as top guys if we change one thing. Now, like I said, the funny thing was, my original desire was to get rid of the Universal title. But how do I get rid of the Universal title? And now, it's funny, after coming up with the plan, I actually came up with a plan B. Wow. Which could have worked, but I'll ask your opinion before I say before I lay into what I actually booked.
Okay.
Do you feel The Miz has the cachet to be perceived as a top guy? Because I felt like he had so many stop-start pushes. That's why that I chose a different man.
I think The Miz can be considered a top guy because A, he has the promo ability.
Mm-hmm.
B, so when I think of The Miz, I think of a Ted DiBiase without the millions of dollars.
Yeah.
Is how.
Although the funny thing is, we know as a reality, he's got a nice house, beautiful wife. Like he's got dollars.
In reality, The Miz has the most unfair life imaginable. But pushing that.
Yeah. I'm just saying. I'm actually very happy for the man.
Oh yeah, no.
I'm always pro Ohio. Like when it comes to.
I'm about to say we actually reclaim The Miz and we can give everyone else back Logan Paul. You guys can keep it.
That's funny. What I was gonna say is we know that there are going to be 3 NBA celebrities or whatever players
DLC
in WWE 2K25,
mm-hmm.
but we don't know who the 3 are. But my thing is
right now,
of course, when a friend said, "Oh, what about LeBron James?" I said, "Hey, if he's in Ohio, yay!" But if not, whatever. It'll probably just be people I don't know.
Yeah.
But like my point is, I'm always, hey, good job, Ohio.
Pro Ohio feelings. But yeah, getting back to my point, I think now, granted, Ted DiBiase was a better wrestler than Miz.
Yeah, for sure.
But
I think Miz has grown though.
Tremendously.
Yeah, from
like
the
I'm not
start to now. My goodness.
Like if we're comparing, like even if you compare his 2 world title reigns,
Mm-hmm,
right?
Mm-hmm.
Like the first world title reign, I don't think he should have been world champion at that time.
Right.
And that's not me crapping on him. That's just I'm looking at everything around him
Yeah.
probably
Well,
wasn't that
do you
good.
know who also agrees with you?
Who?
CM Punk.
Yeah, well,
He said I was the one.
Yeah, I was
Pick
supposed
me.
to be the guy. Yeah,
Yeah, should have been me.
Yeah, that's a long story. That's probably best saved for another video. But the second time the Miz was the world champion, it didn't bother me as much as it did the first time.
No.
I was like, you know what? Yeah, that makes sense. The Miz has all the charisma. He can talk. I think by that point, like, he had also like gained the respect that he's been looking for pretty much his entire career.
Absolutely, I'm with
to
you.
that point.
So it was.
So yeah,
It's actually.
I think he could have been the top.
So it's actually the finish of. So I was booking from as early as January 5th of 2015, and as far back so here's what happened. The one thing I changed in this timeline that then subsequently changes everything is Drew McIntyre, his last match in WWE before he got fired was the WrestleMania 30 in the Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal on April the 6th, 2014. And then he subsequently gets fired on June 12th, 2014. But I said, wait a second. I want a guy who can be believable to elevate a championship. Thank you for being here at Mr. Super Oz. This video is going out, and this channel only exists because I, Oz, founded Gamble Comics, which first release was Everlasting Survivors, a 68-page graphic novel called All Day Long. Available now. Follow the link in the description that will take you to gamblecomics.com. While there, you can get hats, shirts, posters, much, much more, but most importantly, the story itself. Coming soon from Gamble Comics, BC Brute. And what I mean by a championship is a title that is perceived as secondary. I want a man who can carry it to make it look like a top title. And so I said, what better man to choose than the chosen one, Drew McIntyre.
Makes sense.
And so what I did was I gave him an entire the entire rest of 2014 off and didn't have him return until January the 5th of 2015.
He showed up in NXT.
What's that? No, he didn't return to NXT until 2017.
Damn, was that long?
Yes. So, and that's why that I had to change that one thing.
Yeah.
Because if he gets fired in 2014, he doesn't work. I have to make it somebody else. Now, like I said, retroactively, I thought, it could have been Miz, but I just prefer Drew because of his size, his anger.
We were probably 1 year off from the Miz. Like, I think like the prime time to do it would have been. You remember when he cut that promo on Talking Smack?
Of course.
On Danielson.
Yeah. So hold this for a second, please. Yeah. So it's actually the Talking Smack promo is why I considered Miz for the role.
We're on the same page.
Yes. So I'll just jump to the finish. I'll tell you the things that changed throughout, but I'll just jump to the finish. No, I can't do that. I want to, but I can't. Mm-hmm. So, okay, I'll do it, but it won't make any sense until I go backwards. So, the culmination of this change one thing, change everything concept is when Bryan Danielson comes out of retirement, he wrestles Drew McIntyre at WrestleMania 34.
Okay.
Now, why is that important?
2018? Just so I got the time right.
It's on the page.
Cool, because I can't remember.
2018, April the 8th, 2018, yes.
Perfect.
So the reason that's important, and the reason Miz would have worked really well for the role, is because of him and Danielson's
feud that
past.
never happened.
But what I planned is to make it all make sense. So, when Drew returns on January the 5th of 2015,
yep.
Like I said, last time he was seen was WrestleMania, Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal. That Cesaro won. When he returns that January, he is actually the man who takes the Intercontinental title off of Dolph Ziggler. Because on that night, Dolph loses the title in the original timeline to Wade Barrett. But here's what I do. So in that match, Director of Authority Kane restarts the match and it's no disqualification. But what I do is I have Dolph retain against Wade, Drew Claymore's Dolph. That's when Kane restarts the match, and Drew wins the title. Now, it's not this Intercontinental title. It's the Cody Rhodes returned white strap. The reason that's important is because I looked this up, and I could not believe the statistic that it blew me away. Josiah, do you know how many times Drew McIntyre in real life has held the Intercontinental title?
Twice.
One time.
Really?
He held the title from December 13th of 2009 until May 23rd of 2010. That was when he was the chosen one. That was when he was Vince's handpicked boy. He even held the title into a Money in the Bank ladder match. Yada, yada, yada. The point is, he's a one-time, in reality, Intercontinental Champion. But here in the Butterfly Effect Wrestling timeline, he is like I said, he held the title for 161 days in real life. But when he holds this white strap version of the title, he holds it from January 5th until March 29th of 2015, that being WrestleMania, where he loses the title in the ladder match where Bryan comes back from retirement. Or not even retirement, from injury.
The one where he comes back and then he re-retires.
Yes. So, the reason that's important is because the title Danielson wins is the white strap.
Yes.
But, actually, I'm going to flip this a little. So, I'm going to jump past some things. Because the fact is, I booked way too much. I will say this, instead of Big Show and Kane being the ones who fight off Ambrose and Rollins in the Rumble, it's Drew and Kane. Instead of Roman beating Bryan en route to WrestleMania to keep his spot, he beats Drew to keep his spot at WrestleMania, and Drew defends the Intercontinental title instead of Wade Barrett. But again, Bryan still wins it at WrestleMania.
Yeah, you want to just flip for you?
Oh, no, it's cool. I got this. So, the important thing is, Bryan Danielson, who is Intercontinental Bryan Danielson, who's Intercontinental Champion, defends his title against Drew McIntyre, and it's at this event. It's the last show, or it's the last match that Bryan has. It's an overseas tour match, and the reason this occurs the way that it does is because it's Drew's Claymore in storyline on April the 16th that causes Bryan to have to step away from wrestling, this time seemingly possibly for good. And so the biggest change, can you hold that for a second? So Danielson in real life didn't defend against Wade Barrett at Extreme Rules, because he had the lingering issues. He hadn't yet retired. He didn't know. But Drew does wrestle Wade in this timeline because there's no reason for him not to. And it's actually the Raw where Bryan retires, where Wade elevates the title and says, this is a top title because I got rid of this top guy, basically. And so, while all these things are occurring, here's a fun thing. So I'm gonna speed through this. So one of the main things that doesn't occur in our timeline is Ryback doesn't get an Intercontinental title run.
Oh, yeah.
So Ryan Reeves does not win the title in the Elimination Chamber because it's never vacated. But Drew does defend against Mark Henry, Dolph Ziggler, Wade Barrett, Sheamus, and R-Truth. So I booked Drew to be in a handful of main events here and there. But the important thing is, by the time that the draft rolls around, July 19th of 2016, Bryan Danielson is paired with Director of Authority Kane. But the reason that's important is because Kane has had a crisis of conscience. Because Kane, formerly best buds with I Am the Tag Team Champions Danielson.
No, I am the Tag Team Champions.
Exactly. He's splitting his personality between the power figure and the wrestler. And yeah, exactly. Yeah, the Devil's Favorite Demon. And so, anyway, by the time we get to the draft, it's now Danielson and Kane getting to pick their first draft pick, and they choose the Intercontinental Champion, Drew McIntyre, as their first round pick because, to me, well, one, I got the blue stones on the belt, so, it's SmackDown ready. It's got the big blue globe there, SmackDown ready. But my point is, it's all the crumbs are being laid so that when Danielson comes back from injury, he can get his revenge.
Get his one.
Exactly. Get his revenge on Drew. Like I said, I booked so much other stuff, but the important thing is, no Universal title, no Ryback push. Kane has a dual character portrayal. when Danielson comes out of retirement.
He's got a ready-made feud ready to go.
Exactly. By that point, obviously, Drew won't be champion because we're not going to instantly elevate Danielson up to the top. And, like I said, Drew will have had 3 Intercontinental title reigns. 161 days, 114 days, and 352 days. So as to prove that this is an important title. The hardest thing for me to do was to not buy a redesigned World Heavyweight title, because when they merged the big gold belt with the big logo belt, I was like, man, you can't just bring in the big logo with the World Heavyweight on there if I know this is what's going to come.
Yeah.
But, it was a good price, but I just couldn't bring myself to buy two.
Second time.
And so it also wasn't the theme of the video,
right.
World Heavyweight title.
Couldn't justify it.
And so, but this is such a fun first trip down the what happens if you change one thing. Now, like I said, the big changes are Balor doesn't get hurt in his match for the red strap.
Right.
Ryback doesn't get a push.
KO's never world champion.
Well, definitely not that title.
Yeah.
But I could totally see a world where he
wins that one.
Or the other one.
Because, or the other one, yeah.
But because I think Kevin's got all the tools it takes to be a top guy.
Still does.
Oh, yeah, 100%. I think personally he's winning the world title before the end of 2025 so that Sami Zayn can win the Saudi Arabia Royal Rumble and challenge Kevin in the main event.
I do keep forgetting they're going to be in the Royal Rumble.
And that'll be at the Superdome. Yeah. So it'll be pretty nice.
Yeah, that'll be dope.
Which is where Kevin and Sami took on Danielson and Shane O'Mac, where in this timeline that never occurs, but still, it's just things coming full circle. Had it not been for this championship's arrival, this would not have been the first video in the Butterfly Effect wrestling concept. Canon, there we go. Because my first idea was something I've actually played around with for years and years and years, which is booking the first black WWF champion to be Ron Simmons.
Way back in the day.
But I don't have a Wayne Deagle title, and this came in, and I was like, we'll talk about Ron another day.
Yeah, in the future.
The next episode of Butterfly Effect Wrestling will not be booked by me. Josiah, tag. He's up next.
We are going to be talking about what would have happened if Rey Mysterio did not lose his WWE Championship an hour later to John Cena.
Oh, you mean John Cena's first heel turn?
Ah, yes. Yeah, the original John Cena heel turn. That's right. And we're going to be talking about that in the future. I have no idea when.
I think it's like a month from now.
All right, we got time.
Like 4 to 6 weeks, something like that.
Okay, plenty of time. Because I'm only having half booked right now.
All right. Well, I appreciate you.
Thanks, brother.